This counterthrust 9th Age battle, with Spoils of War as the objective, is sponsored by the theme of Beethoven's music-inspiring Star Wars and the Imperial March. The High Elves have deployed, dropping everything. Will they be marching to glory? They'll be taking the first turn, that's for sure. The Dragon Princes and Sea Guards and Spearmen on the other left flank are the central units, with a couple of Sky Sloops behind, and a blue Flame Phoenix with cold flames. Now the Prince on Dragon is also a central feature in the High Elven army. The Orcs are now lined up. You can see the blue skirts of the Battle Standard Bearer. The Trolls are unit fillers, and they're standing on top of a wall. It's just a perfect balanced unit for fighting these Highborn Elves. There are 2 Gargantulas and a Wyvern in the Orc army. Black Orcs here on the flank, engaging the Dragon or Sea Guards. And the Dragon Princes are up against 2 big blocks. The big guns here with the Black Orc BSB, with Tuctex Guard on the BSB. And 1 Gargantula was left a bit on the side, not as relevant. The Boar Boys are going off on their own, maybe to catch the objective here. And it'll chiefly be the High Elves taking the initiative with the first turn. The Raiders, Vanguard to the right there, and the Reavers from the Highborn Elf side, Vanguard up into the waters near the Spear Chaka. The Highborn Elves on their first turn do not move much. They just move strategically to be just out of charge range and within range of casting spells. So let's see how this goes about. The Flame Phoenix has taken its blue flamed wings up to the other flank by the Gargantula. Is that a good choice? We may find out. Orc players do not like to count the dice. This is what they use to dispel a 3-diced spell, Fate's Judgment. But now the other missile, the Great Missile from Divination, went through, doing 5 wounds to the Gargantula if it doesn't make its armor saves. 5+, it loses 4 wounds. Success, and the Gargantula grows pale from the magic. In the Highborn Elves turn 1, the Gargantula racked up a deficit of 6 wounds, not economical, since the Orc army is to charge up the first turn without any literal charges, but still. The Spear Chaka was shot down by the Sea Guards in combination with 1 of the Sky Sloops. The other Sky Sloops missed all its wounds on the big guns. Since we're testing another Orc player's army, we had to change around the units. So these are still the big guns. They're just 6 wide instead of in a horde. And these are still the Black Orcs. The Black Orcs all of a sudden got the Trolls as unit fillers. And the BSB is still here in the big gun unit. We just had to change around. Ja vel, säger du. That's a local expression. The Goblin Raiders charged the Flame Phoenix, losing 5 raiders, but they have the BSB and the General within their range, so they were inspired to stand and fight onwards against the Flame Phoenix, which they did 1 wound to. The Wyvern is hiding behind the Gargantula, which only has 2 wounds left, The Gargantula on the other flank failed its march test, so it's kind of slow, lagging behind. Now let's see what happens there. The Sky Sloop was shot down by a swarm of insects and the breath weapon of the totemic beast, which came up to harass the High Elven army. That's the last thing they needed here. And the Orc and Goblin player got off all his spells. The Highborn Elf player did terribly dispelling. It was a disaster on the level of climate change. The Dragon Princess took up the torch from the Goblin Raiders, who had been standing holding up the Flame Phoenix, striking a strike for the cavalry on this field. The Raiders were finally killed, but the Dragon Princess charged the Gargantula with 2 wounds left. They were boosted with reroll to hit and +1 strength, so they killed the Gargantula with 4 excess wounds, and overran into the Wyvern. So they did a very good move. And they have chaffed the big guns with the Reavers on their side. So the cavalry is really playing a central role in this battle. Now the WAG begins. The Orcs on their turn 2 have a BSB who charges out of the unit and into the dangerous Dragon Princess. He wants to be part of the action here. If one general is going to fall, the BSB will fall with him. Or they're not falling, they're just fighting, they're winning. The Black Orcs here charged and destroyed Elein Reavers, who had fled from here, from the Gargantula. The Gargantula redirected into the Flame Phoenix. But wait a second, Espen. We forgot to take a Leadership 5 test on the Gargantula to see if he could redirect. He just resolved a redirect leadership test on the Gargantula. He made it. So he redirected into towards the Flame Phoenix. Flame Phoenix chose to flee. And then the totemic summon walked straight into the fleeing Flame Phoenix, destroying it. Now that was consequential. The Highborn Elves have a headlong charge in the center, and they're winning so far with a lot of buffs. They have strength 7 on this charge now. But the flanks are so vulnerable. The Goblins and Orcs are eating them up. The feral boar boys over here are standing on one of the objectives, the first to reach one. Or I think there might be one under the... Oh, the Dragon Princess just walked past their objective, so they're not picking it up this round. Now we'll have the central combat here, after magic. On the turn number 2, the Wyvern actually held up against the Dragon Princess, and because of the 2 combat rests from the charging BSB, they won the combat. The Wyvern only lost 2 wounds against the charging Dragon Princess, and they lost 3 models. So the headlong charge of the Light Brigade, or the Heavy Brigade, did not carry the day for the Highborn Elves, and now it's looking worse. The Prince on a Dragon took 1 wound from the Swarm of Insect spell. No other magic went through, and the boar boys on the side are on one of the objectives, the first one to pick up an objective. High Elves, turn 3 now. Do they have some good moves? They do have a totemic beast behind them, which is doing some perverse moves. So they'll need some good moves.
Förresten.
Now things happened. The Dragon Princess lost 2 more wounds and fled. The Wyvern tried to catch them in flight. The BSB stood behind. He didn't make any such attempt. But the Wyvern just got in the path of the Highborn Elf Dragon. The dragon charged on impulse right away. Now the Orcs in their round 3 had got in another totemic beast. And the first totemic beast charged the Mage's unit, the Archmage's unit. On the next turn, the Highborn Elves also made a charge into the big guns with the Lothern Sea Guards. Oh, tragedy of all tragedies. The totemic summon was killed before he could kill the mage.
Og T-Lice rerotate på dagen. Fem.
Er det spillet?
Ja, men jo, det litt nå. 8 pluss, 6 pluss, så jeg klarte den ikke.
In the magic phase, only the hereditary spell went through for the Highborn Elves.
Pluss styrkespill.
He keeps going, he keeps attempting, but he's not managing anything. Yeah. Only the hereditary spell on the Highborn Elf side. Now there will be a great battle, and round 4 will be our last round. Okay. The Lord of the Sea Guards got in with the dragon into the big guns and slaughtered them completely. With the Master of Canreig Tower with his golden spear as well. They killed all but 5 of the big guns before the big guns could strike back. The big guns did kill 7 wounds and 4 were saved by the hereditary spell from Highborn Elves, or thereabouts. But they were slaughtered before they could strike back. Now, after that, the dragon was charged in the last turn of the game by the Gargantula, the BSB, and the Totemic Summon. It lost 1 wound, did 2 wounds to the Gargantula, lost by 2, but it made its 8 discipline save. So that's that. The Orc and Goblin list has many serious flaws. It's a very heavy list with some hard-hitting units. I've been playing pretty crazy Orc and Goblin lists, so I didn't capitalize too much on the power in the big units. I placed them wrongly, and both of the big blocks were surrounded and eaten up in 1 round by the Highborn Elves. So I find this Orc and Goblin list quite unappetizing. We did get the objective on the Orc side, however. And during the game we swapped the paired weapons on these boar boys, which I didn't need paired weapons on, and put them on light lances for the wolf riders instead.
So your conclusion was that because you played so you got surrounded, the list is bad?
It's terrible. It's terrible, really. I mean, you can't excuse this kind of stuff. Nun, zum Beispiel, was heißt das? Scrap wagons. Why were there no scrap wagons in this list, for example? I mean, there was so little craziness to play with that this Orc and Goblin list is just unfathomable.